Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for tuning into my guitar blog. It is Saturday, March 5th, 2011. I've got some great questions that I'm going to be going over on the guitar blog today. The first one comes to us from Bertrand in France, and he wrote in saying, I really like the substitutions video that you posted on March 4th, 2011. Can you cover the theory of those chords you use from the intro jam, and what are those small chord shots that I hear in the background of that jam? Also, how can I get a copy of that intro jam as well as the jam from your February 25th video? I can't seem to find them for sale on your Creative Guitar Studio website's jam track listings. Well, they will be posted up there. Just make sure you stay tuned to my Twitter feed. I will make announcements when that stuff goes up. It's just been kind of a busy last little while for me, but they will be headed up on there. I know everybody loves those jam tracks. I'm trying to constantly get more of them on the site all the time. Now, let's get to your question about the March 4th jam. That was the one where we were talking about substitutions based upon the minor 7 flat 5. Now that progression starts off on a C dominant 7th chord, and then it heads to an E minor 7 flat 5, which is built off of the 3rd of the C7 chord, and thus giving us a sound of C dominant 9 and that second measure there. Then we head over to just your standard F dominant 7th, and then we're going to do an inversion of that F dominant 7th by placing A in the bass, and then I come over to an A minor 7 flat 5. Now, if you're not familiar with chord inversions, it's really a good idea to study that a little bit. Your triads are going to have a first inversion placing the 3rd of the chord in the bass, second inversion placing the 5th, and then your 7th quality chords will have the 3rd inversion, which places the 7th in the bass. A little bit less common, but they all exist. They're all out there, so it's a good idea to get to know that. And then the rest of the theory really about this progression is just the fact that it's kind of like, you know, really almost a soul R&B type progression. It's just really a 1 chord and a 4 chord from a typical blues. So we got our C, and we have our F, you know, the root in the 4th chord. So that's why, you know, a lot of those sounds, the C minor and the C blues, they all work 100% over top of those chord changes. So that's basically the theory of it. It's kind of a sort of a soul type of R&B jam that we have on that one. And oh yeah, and the chord shots. Yeah, that's right. Those chord shots that you hear in the jam track, those are basically the top end 2 strings of the chords. So you hear those little shots. Those are going to be basically, in this case, it's a G and a C. A 4th interval on the top 2 strings, and then when the F, that's for the C chord, pardon me, and then when the F chord comes up, I'm just basically heading over to an A and a C, so that's like the major 3rd and the 5th of that F chord. So that's all I'm doing there. It's really simple. That's the one for the C chord, you know, that's the G and the C together, and then when it switches to the F chord, I'm just switching into an A and a C, so I got the major 3rd and the 5th there. Okay, that's pretty much all there is to that one. Now the next question comes to us from Tavin. I hope, again, I got your name right there. Tavin's from Germany, and he wrote in here saying, I have an old acoustic that is in nice shape, but the pickguard needs to be replaced. Can you possibly explain how one would go about removing the pickguard on a steel string acoustic guitar? I've purchased a pickguard, but I'm rather concerned about damaging the guitar when I'm removing the old one. I hope you can help me. Well, it just so happens that I do have an older Yamaha acoustic kicking around here that I don't mind making a video out of, and we'll pop the pickguard off and you know, basically get you squared away with exactly how to do that. Now there's a few things though that you're going to need to do this job. We'll talk about them when we zoom in on this acoustic and start peeling this pickguard off, but we're going to need some adhesive remover. You're going to need a heat gun. You may even need perhaps some needle nosed and some basic pliers. But the main thing, and also you're going to need some old cloths because you'll be using the adhesive remover to remove the glue that's left over after you basically take the pickguard off itself. So there's some supplies you're going to need. You're going to maybe also want to keep in mind that when you're using adhesive remover, that stuff's got quite a potent smell to it, so you maybe want to work somewhere that's well ventilated. But let's get to work on this pickguard removal. It's a fairly easy thing to do, and I'll go through it step by step with you, and no concerns here. This is going to be a fairly easy job for you. Now, to remove pickguard off of a guitar, you will need a few things. You'll need a can of adhesive remover. I quite like the Semsolve brand. That's quite good stuff. You'll need a heat gun. So you have to be real careful about that when we use this, but we have that, as well as a small screwdriver, so maybe one of these precision screwdrivers, just to lift one of the edges of the pickguard and get it started, and then we'll remove it from there. Now let's get started with the heat gun. So I'll be using the heat gun on a low setting. I'll just be going over top of the pickguard, being very careful. You just want to get it basically as warm as you would find the guitar might get, you know, if you took it out to the beach and it was sitting next to you and you were just doing some jamming on the beach. Keep checking it every once in a while. Once it gets to be pretty warm, then that glue on the back that's holding it to the face of the guitar will be loosened off enough that it should come off fairly easy. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to one edge, and we're just going to get the screwdriver underneath the edge, and you can see now that the heat gun is loosened up the glue, it starts coming off fairly easy. You have to be careful because you don't want to really pry on it. You'll scratch the face of the guitar if you do so. It's amazing how nice that heat gun gets it. You know what you might also find is if you have a stubborn pickguard like I have here, a pair of pliers can really do the trick. So you get that pickguard peeled back. Now you can see after the pickguard is removed, there's quite a bit of discoloration from where the pickguard was. You know, once that pickguard comes off, it's not like you can basically leave it off because there's such a change in the discoloration. But to get that glue off, that's where we're going to go to work and use the Semsolve solution. You can just use the Semsolve and wipe down the area where the pickguard was, so you get all that stuff, all that glue cleaned off the face of the guitar. Now you might find, depending on the pickguard, I've taken some pickguards off that were a nightmare, and they just take a little more time than this one. This one was fairly easy, but it depends, I guess, how long the pickguard's been on the guitar, and you know how much glue was on the back of the pickguard, you know, from its installation. But you may have to use that heat gun again to get the glue off if it's a real nasty one. But as you can tell, they're not really that difficult to take off if you just use the right tools and take your time. So now the next question comes to us from Gad. I hope I got your name right. He's out in Israel, and he wrote in saying, I'm really confused about a progression I'm working on that goes C minor 7 to B flat minor 7 and then E flat dominant. So C minor 7 and then B flat minor to E flat dominant, and then into A flat major 7, and then a change here of a kind of like a 2-5 heading us back to C. So D minor 7 flat 5 to a G7 that's augmented, and that's the loop, of course. So it's a 4-bar progression, basically pointing at C minor, but it's got some other interesting stuff there. He just wrote in saying, it is supposed to be easily played over using modes, but I don't understand what the theory is with these changes in modes. Can you please help me? Well, let's talk about those changes and how modes could be applied over top of them. So now on the first chord there, I think I'd pretty much stick to basic C minor scale sounds. So you make Aeolian mode, basically. And then when you have the next two chords that come up, there's a B flat minor 7 and an E flat dominant 7th. I would shift down the neck a whole step myself and just play B flat Dorian mode. It's perfect mode for that. Anytime you have a 2-5 basically in jazz, you can pretty much take off the 2 chord there and just play Dorian mode. Works just perfect. Then that 2-5 actually resolves into A flat major, so you could pretty much kind of keep playing B flat Dorian, I guess. I mean, you could begin to look at it maybe a little bit more in terms of arpeggios off of the A flat, but really, you know, A flat major, if you're thinking scale wise, I mean, it's the same thing as B flat Dorian. B flat Dorian comes from A flat major scale. So that's pretty much, you know, if you want to be really specific and target into the A flat, I guess, you know, could definitely say, you know, target into the A flat major scale or Ionian mode. And then at the end there's a 2-5, that D minor 7 flat 5 heading over to that G augmented, it's a dominant 7th with a sharp 5. But you know, on those changes, I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do. If you want to keep it pretty straightforward, more or less kind of simple, I would just basically play C harmonic minor. That's going to really cover those changes quite nice. And that's going to pull you back around again to that C minor 7 chord. So let's review that very quickly. So it starts on C minor 7, and we're just going to look at that in terms of maybe some you know, minor scale or Aeolian mode off the C there. And then we have that 2-5, you know, the B flat to the E flat chord there, and we're just talking about using Dorian off B flat. And then when it heads to the A flat major, you know, just basically A flat major stuff. Then when we have our change there, the 2-5, anytime, you know, pretty much working in minor and you have a minor 7 flat 5 heading into any kind of dominant chord as a 5-1, you know, we're heading into C, you can get away with harmonic minor on those changes. And then I'll pull you back to the C chord and you'll be perfectly fine to repeat the whole process over and over and over again. But if you really want to spice those changes up, I'd say definitely start looking toward arpeggios as well. And if you're not great with modes, then of course you can just rely on some pentatonic sounds, C minor pentatonic. And then for that 2-5 in major, the B flat to the E flat, just do B flat pentatonic. And then perhaps if you're okay with the A flat major pentatonic, you can certainly work off that. And then of course the 2-5 there at the end, you can just maybe kind of lock it down a little bit with some sounds of C minor pentatonic. It's not going to be fantastic. Really the more ideal scale on that 2-5 heading back to C of D minor 7 flat 5 to the G7 would be definitely C harmonic minor. But anyway, so lots of options, lots of choices. But trust me, man, work on arpeggios. That's really the real ticket there. Well, that's about all the time that I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate all the great questions. Thanks for watching. Again, thanks for sending in the questions. I could not do these YouTube channels without all the fantastic questions. And my apologies all the time to folks because I don't get a chance to basically reply to every question that gets sent in. If you don't get a reply from me, just keep sending them. Make sure also you send your questions into the andrewwatson.com website. That's the Guitar Blog website. That's where I take all the questions from. Also, make sure you include your name, of course, and it's really cool to get the place that you live in the world. It's always kind of nice to say that out to folks when they're watching these vids. So anyway, keep in mind also too, I'm also doing a weekly podcast that comes out every Monday. I just set up an RSS feed for that as well. But anyway, until next time, take care, and we'll catch up with you on my next video blog. Bye for now.